Why most people stay poor. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that your bank account has been reset to zero. No savings. No investments. No expensive possessions. No inheritance. Only your mind remains. Now ask yourself this question. Would you become wealthy again, or would you eventually return to the same financial struggle? This question separates those who merely have money from those who know how to create it. Because poverty is not always the absence of money. Very often, it is the result of invisible habits, unnoticed decisions, and deeply rooted beliefs that quietly shape a person's entire life. Every day, millions of people work tirelessly. They wake before sunrise. They endure long commutes. They sacrifice sleep. They give their best effort. Yet many remain trapped in the same financial position year after year. Why? Is the world unfair? Is success reserved for a lucky few? Or is there something hidden that most people never recognize? The truth is uncomfortable. Most people don't stay poor because they lack potential. They stay poor because they unknowingly repeat patterns that keep them exactly where they are. Patterns passed down through families. Patterns reinforced by society. Patterns strengthened by fear, comfort, distraction, and short-term thinking. The saddest part is this. Many people never realize they are following these patterns until decades have passed. They don't notice that small daily choices become lifelong habits. They don't notice that habits become character. And character shapes destiny. Money is rarely the first thing that changes. The mind changes first. Then decisions change. Then actions. Finally, the results begin to change. Today's journey is not about criticizing people who struggle financially. It is about exposing the invisible chains that quietly hold millions back. Some of these chains may surprise you. Some may challenge your beliefs. And some may reveal habits that you've carried for years without ever questioning them. If you have the courage to stay until the end, you may never look at money, work, success, or your own future the same way again. Because by the end of this video, you won't simply understand why most people stay poor. You'll understand how to avoid becoming one of them. So, find a comfortable place. Take a slow, deep breath. Leave distractions behind for the next hour. Open your mind. And let's begin a journey that has the power to transform not only your finances, but the way you think for the rest of your life. Relaxation and mental preparation. Before we continue, I want you to pause for just a moment. Wherever you are. Whether you're sitting in your room, driving home after a long day, walking through your neighborhood, or preparing to sleep, allow yourself to become fully present. Take a slow breath in. Hold it gently. Now breathe out. Again. A little slower this time. With every breath, let go of the noise around you. Forget about yesterday's mistakes. Forget about today's worries. Forget about the opinions of people who have never walked your path. For the next hour, this is your time. A time to think. A time to reflect. A time to challenge ideas that may have silently shaped your life for years. Many people spend their entire lives learning how to earn money. But very few ever learn how money truly works. Even fewer learn how the human mind works. Yet your mind is your greatest financial asset. Every successful entrepreneur, investor, inventor, and leader first changed the way they thought before they changed the numbers in their bank account. That same opportunity exists for you. You don't need to compare yourself with anyone. You don't need to feel ashamed of where you are today. Your current financial situation is only a chapter. It does not have to become your entire story. Today, we begin writing a different ending. Stay curious. Stay open-minded. And most importantly, stay honest with yourself. Because transformation begins the moment we stop making excuses and start asking better questions. Let's continue. Motivational introduction. Have you ever noticed something interesting? Two people can grow up in the same neighborhood, attend the same school, face similar challenges, even begin adulthood with almost nothing. Yet 20 years later, one has built financial freedom while the other is still struggling from paycheck to paycheck. What happened? Was one simply luckier? Sometimes luck plays a small role. But over a lifetime, consistent choices matter far more than lucky moments. The gap between wealth and poverty is often created little by little, through the decisions people repeat every single day. The books they read. The skills they learn. The people they spend time with. The risks they avoid. The opportunities they recognize, or ignore. The habits they practice without even thinking. None of these decisions seem dramatic in a single day. But over years, they become life-changing. Imagine two trees planted side by side. One receives water, sunlight, and regular care. The other is neglected. For weeks, they may look almost identical. But after years, the difference is impossible to ignore. Human lives work much the same way. The habits we feed determine the future we harvest. Throughout this journey, you may recognize yourself in some of these stories. That's okay. This isn't about guilt. It's about awareness. Awareness is the first step toward change. And change is the first step toward freedom. So open your mind. Take every lesson personally. Reflect honestly. Because the first reason most people stay poor is not what many expect. It begins in the only place where every fortune, and every failure, is first created. The mind. Chapter 1. They never change the way they think. Before a person becomes wealthy. Before they build a business. Before they buy their first investment. Before they change their circumstances. They first change the way they think. This may sound simple, but it is one of the greatest truths about success. Every building begins with a blueprint. Every journey begins with a destination. And every financial future begins with a mindset. Many people believe that if they had more money, their lives would automatically improve. But history tells a different story. There have been lottery winners who became millionaires overnight, only to lose everything within a few years. There have been professional athletes who earned fortunes, then ended up bankrupt after retirement. There have also been entrepreneurs who lost everything during financial crises, yet built their fortunes again from nothing. What made the difference? It wasn't the money. It was the mind behind the money. The story of two brothers. Imagine two brothers, Daniel and Michael. They were raised in the same modest home. Their father worked long hours but was constantly worried about bills. Whenever money was discussed, the conversation always ended the same way. We can't afford it. Rich people are lucky. Money causes problems. As children, both brothers heard these words thousands of times. For Daniel, those words became permanent beliefs. He grew into adulthood convinced that wealth belonged to other people. Whenever he saw someone driving a beautiful car, he would say, "He probably cheated someone." Whenever he met a successful business owner, he would whisper, "People like us can never reach that level." Without realizing it, Daniel built invisible walls around his own future. Michael heard the same words growing up. But instead of accepting them as truth, he became curious. He began asking different questions. What do wealthy people know that I don't? What skills can I learn? What books should I read? What habits can I develop? The brothers started in the same place. But they ended up living completely different lives. Not because one was luckier. Because one accepted limiting beliefs. And the other challenged them. The invisible prison. The most dangerous prison has no walls. It exists inside the mind. It tells people, "I'm too young. I'm too old. I don't have enough education. I wasn't born into the right family. I'll start next year. I'm just unlucky." These thoughts feel harmless. But repeated often enough, they become beliefs. Beliefs become decisions. Decisions become habits. Habits become lifestyles. And lifestyles create financial results. A person who believes opportunities don't exist rarely looks for them. A person who believes success belongs to others stops trying long before success has a chance to find them. This is why changing your financial life begins by changing your internal conversation. The mirror principle. Imagine standing before a mirror. If your reflection appears unhappy, shouting at the mirror changes nothing. You must change yourself first. Money works in much the same way. Many people try to change their bank account without changing the person who manages it. They hope that a higher salary will solve every problem. But if the habits remain the same, if the thinking remains the same, if the discipline remains the same, the financial struggles usually return. True wealth is built from the inside out. A lesson from nature. Think about a tiny seed planted in the ground. When you look at it, nothing seems to happen. Days pass. Weeks pass. Still nothing. But beneath the surface, invisible roots are growing. Only after those roots become strong enough does the tree begin to rise above the ground. Success follows the same pattern. Your mindset is the root. Your financial results are the fruit. Most people stare at the fruit while ignoring the roots. Yet without healthy roots, no tree can produce lasting fruit. Reflection. Ask yourself these questions honestly. When you think about money, what is the first feeling that comes to mind? Fear? Hope? Anxiety? Excitement? Who taught you what you believe about wealth? Have you ever questioned those beliefs? Are they helping you build the future you want? Or quietly keeping you where you've always been? Remember, every great transformation begins with one courageous decision. The decision to think differently. Because the life you live tomorrow is being shaped by the thoughts you choose to believe today. And once your thinking begins to change, your actions will soon follow. But changing your thoughts alone is not enough. Many people dream of becoming wealthy. Yet every month, they unknowingly make one financial decision that keeps them trapped. In the next chapter, we'll uncover one of the most common habits separating those who build wealth from those who remain stuck for years. Let's continue. Chapter 2. They spend more than they invest. Imagine receiving your monthly income. Your salary arrives. Your business makes a profit. Or perhaps a client finally pays you for your work. For a brief moment, you feel relieved. You tell yourself, "This month will be different." But within days, the money begins to disappear. A new phone catches your attention. A fashionable outfit goes on sale. Friends invite you out. Another online purchase seems impossible to resist. Little by little, your account shrinks. By the end of the month, you're asking the same question you've asked so many times before. Where did all my money go? The truth is that money rarely disappears all at once. It leaves quietly, one small decision at a time. And for many people, this cycle repeats month after month, year after year. The story of Sarah and Grace. Sarah and Grace started working at the same company on the same day. They earned the same salary. Both dreamed of living a better life. But they treated their money very differently. Every payday, Sarah rewarded herself first. She bought the latest fashion. She upgraded her phone even when the old one worked perfectly. She dined out almost every weekend because she believed she deserved to enjoy life after working so hard. Her social media looked impressive. People admired her lifestyle. But behind the beautiful pictures was a painful reality. She had no emergency savings. No investments. No financial plan. Every unexpected expense became a crisis. Grace also enjoyed life, but she followed a simple rule. Pay your future before paying your desires. The moment her salary arrived, she set aside money for savings and investments before spending on anything else. At first, it wasn't much. Some months she invested only a small amount. But she remained consistent. While others laughed at her for being too careful, she kept building quietly. 5 years later, the difference was remarkable. Sarah still looked wealthy. Grace was becoming wealthy. One displayed success. The other was creating it. And those are not always the same thing. The trap of looking rich. Many people spend their entire lives trying to look successful instead of becoming successful. They finance lifestyles they cannot afford. They borrow money to impress people who aren't paying their bills. They chase luxury before building security. But appearances can be deceptive. A luxury car doesn't always mean financial freedom. Designer clothes don't always mean financial wisdom. A large house doesn't always mean wealth. Sometimes they mean debt. Real wealth is often quiet. It doesn't always need applause. It doesn't always seek attention. It grows patiently, like a tree whose strongest roots remain hidden beneath the ground. The difference between an expense and an investment. Every time money leaves your hands, ask yourself one question. Will this make me richer in the future, or only happier for a moment? There is nothing wrong with enjoying your money. Life is meant to be lived. But problems begin when temporary pleasure consistently comes before long-term progress. An expense gives you satisfaction today. An investment has the potential to reward you for years. A good book may cost less than a dinner at a restaurant, yet the knowledge inside that book could change your career. Learning a valuable skill may feel expensive today, but it could increase your income for decades. Investing in your health can help you work, think, and live better. Investing in your education can open doors that spending never will. The wealthy understand this difference. They don't ask only, "Can I afford it?" They also ask, "Is this the best use of my money?" That single question changes everything. The seed and the harvest. Imagine a farmer with 2 baskets of corn. The first basket is cooked and eaten immediately. The second basket is planted in fertile soil. The first basket satisfies hunger for a day. The second creates harvests for years. Money works the same way. Every dollar, naira, euro, or pound you earn gives you a choice. Consume it. Or plant it. Those who consume everything often remain trapped in the same financial season. Those who consistently plant part of what they earn create opportunities their future selves will be grateful for. Reflection. Pause for a moment and think honestly. When your income arrives, what is the first thing you usually do? Do you think about spending? Or building? If someone looked at your bank statement over the past 6 months, would they see evidence of a person preparing for the future? Or someone simply reacting to every desire? Remember, wealth is rarely built by one giant decision. It is built by hundreds of small, disciplined choices repeated over many years. The goal is not to deny yourself every pleasure. The goal is to make sure today's pleasures do not steal tomorrow's freedom. Because financial freedom is not created by how much you earn alone. It is created by what you choose to keep, grow, and multiply. And yet, even people who save and invest can remain financially stuck if fear controls their decisions. Fear has stopped more dreams than failure ever has. That is where our next lesson begins. Let's discover why so many people never become wealthy because they are afraid to take calculated risks. Chapter 3. They fear taking calculated risks. Imagine standing on the edge of a river. On the other side is the life you've always dreamed of. Financial freedom. A meaningful career. A thriving business. The ability to provide for your family without constant worry. Between you and that future is a bridge. The bridge isn't broken. It isn't impossible to cross. But it requires one thing that many people struggle to give: the courage to take the first step. Most people don't fail because they take too many risks. They fail because they never take the right ones. Fear convinces them that staying where they are is safer than moving forward. But there's a hidden truth many people never realize. Doing nothing is also a risk. When you refuse to learn new skills, you risk becoming outdated. When you refuse to invest in yourself, you risk staying exactly where you are. When you refuse to pursue opportunities, you risk spending years wondering, "What if?" The greatest danger is not always making the wrong decision. Sometimes, it's never making a decision at all. The story of James and David. James and David were close friends. Both had stable jobs. Both dreamed of building a business. Both spent years talking about ideas. Every weekend, they met at the same cafe. Every weekend, they discussed their plans. One day, David said, "I'm going to start." James smiled and replied, "I will too, but I need to wait until everything is perfect." David didn't have everything figured out. He didn't have unlimited money. He didn't know every answer. But he was willing to learn as he went. His first attempt wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. He lost some money. He faced criticism. There were days he questioned himself. But every mistake taught him something valuable. Every challenge made him wiser. Meanwhile, James continued planning. He watched more videos. He read more articles. He waited for the perfect moment. Months became years. Years became a decade. One day, James looked at David's successful business and quietly said, "You're lucky." But what looked like luck was actually years of imperfect action. David wasn't fearless. He simply refused to let fear make his decisions. Fear wears many masks. Many people imagine fear as something obvious. A racing heartbeat. Sweaty hands. Nervousness. But financial fear often disguises itself as logic. It whispers things like, "I'll start next year. I need one more course before I begin. Maybe someone else can succeed, but not me. What if I fail?" These thoughts sound reasonable. But if they continue forever, they become invisible chains. The truth is, every successful person has faced uncertainty. No entrepreneur begins with absolute certainty. No investor knows the future. No inventor guarantees success before trying. Confidence isn't something you have before taking action. It grows because you take action. Calculated risk is not reckless risk. Let's be clear. Taking risks doesn't mean gambling your future. It doesn't mean quitting your job without a plan. It doesn't mean investing money you can't afford to lose. Wise people don't chase reckless opportunities. They prepare. They study. They ask questions. They seek advice. They understand the possible outcomes. Then they act. This is called taking a calculated risk. A pilot doesn't ignore the weather before flying. A surgeon doesn't operate without preparation. Likewise, successful people don't eliminate risk. They reduce it through knowledge and preparation. The goal isn't to avoid all risk. The goal is to make informed decisions despite uncertainty. The cost of playing it safe. Many people believe that staying in their comfort zone protects them. But comfort has a hidden price. Imagine planting a seed and refusing to water it because you're afraid of wasting water. The seed never grows. You protected your water, but you lost the harvest. Life works the same way. When you avoid every challenge, you also avoid many of the opportunities hidden inside those challenges. Growth lives outside of comfort. Every meaningful achievement requires stepping into the unknown. Not blindly. Not carelessly. But courageously. Reflection. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what opportunity have I been postponing because of fear? Is there a skill I've wanted to learn but keep delaying? Is there a business idea I've talked about for years without taking the first step? Have I confused preparation with procrastination? Remember this. Failure is not always the opposite of success. Very often, it is part of the journey towards success. Every mistake carries a lesson. Every lesson makes you stronger. Every step forward builds confidence for the next. The people who change their lives are rarely the ones who know everything before they begin. They are the ones who begin, keep learning, and refuse to let fear write the story of their future. Because in the end, the greatest regret is rarely the mistakes we made. It is the opportunities we never pursued. But fear isn't the only thing that keeps people financially trapped. Many work hard every single day, yet remain one emergency away from financial hardship. Why? Because they depend on only one stream of income. And that is the next invisible trap we'll uncover. Chapter 4. They depend on one source of income. Imagine a village with only one well. For years, the well provides enough water for everyone. The people become comfortable. They never think about digging another well because the first one has never failed them. Then one summer, the well dries up. Suddenly, the entire village is in crisis. Not because they were lazy. Not because they were weak. But because they depended on only one source. Now think about your income. If it comes from only one place, what happens if that source disappears? What if the company downsizes? What if the business slows down? What if an illness keeps you from working for several months? These are uncomfortable questions, but they are necessary. Many people believe that working harder is the answer to financial freedom. But there is a limit to how many hours you can work. There is no limit, however, to how many ways your money can work for you. That is one of the biggest differences between surviving and building wealth. The story of Samuel and Peter. Samuel and Peter graduated from university together. Both found good jobs. Both earned nearly the same salary. For the first few years, their lives looked almost identical. But their habits were very different. Samuel believed that his job was enough. He worked diligently, earned promotions, and assumed his paycheck would always be there. After work, he relaxed, watched television, and waited for the next payday. Peter also valued his job. But he knew one paycheck could not guarantee his future. So he used his evenings differently. He learned graphic design. Later, he began freelancing on weekends. With the extra income, he bought equipment that helped him earn even more. Eventually, he started a small online business. It didn't become successful overnight. Some months he earned almost nothing. Some months he questioned whether it was worth the effort. But he stayed consistent. Then something unexpected happened. The company both men worked for announced major layoffs. Samuel was shocked. His only source of income disappeared in a single meeting. Peter lost his job too. But he didn't lose his livelihood. His freelance work continued. His small business continued. Within months, he was earning enough to support himself while searching for new opportunities. The difference wasn't intelligence. The difference was preparation. Never let one door control your future. Imagine entering a house with only one door. If that door becomes blocked, you're trapped. Financially, the same principle applies. When your entire life depends on one paycheck, one customer, or one employer, your future is vulnerable. Building additional income streams doesn't happen overnight. It begins with small steps. Learning a valuable skill. Starting a side project. Investing consistently. Creating something that continues to produce value over time. Every small stream may seem insignificant at first. But many small streams eventually become a river. Wealth is built through value. Some people hear the phrase, multiple streams of income, and imagine getting rich quickly. That isn't the lesson. Real wealth usually grows by solving more problems for more people. The teacher who creates an online course. The writer who publishes books. The photographer who sells digital images. The programmer who builds software. The farmer who processes crops instead of only selling raw produce. The entrepreneur who creates jobs. Each additional source of income begins with creating additional value. The question isn't only, how can I earn more? A better question is, how can I become more useful? The more problems you solve, the more opportunities tend to find you. The bamboo lesson. Have you ever seen a bamboo forest? At first, bamboo appears to grow very slowly. For years, most of its development happens underground. Its roots spread wider and stronger. Then, when the foundation is ready, it shoots upward at an incredible pace. Many additional income streams work the same way. In the beginning, they seem small. The first customer. The first sale. The first investment return. The first freelance payment. It may not feel impressive. But beneath the surface, experience, confidence, and systems are growing. One day, what looked like slow progress becomes remarkable growth. The people watching from the outside call it an overnight success. They never saw the years of quiet preparation. Reflection. Ask yourself honestly, if my main source of income disappeared tomorrow, how long could I continue paying my bills? Am I building skills that could create opportunities beyond my current job? What talent do I already have that could serve other people? What small step could I take this week toward creating another stream of income? Remember, you don't have to build everything at once. One step is enough. One skill. One client. One investment. One idea. Consistency turns small beginnings into extraordinary outcomes. Because wealth is rarely built by depending on one opportunity. It is built by creating many opportunities over time. But even when opportunities exist, many people never take advantage of them. Why? Because they stop learning. They believe education ended when they left school. And that belief quietly limits their future. In the next chapter, we'll discover why failing to develop valuable skills keeps millions of people financially stuck, even when opportunities are all around them. Chapter 5: They don't develop valuable skills. Imagine two people standing at the entrance of a marketplace. Both are looking for a way to earn money. The first person stretches out an empty hand and says, "Can someone give me an opportunity?" The second person walks into the marketplace carrying something valuable. A skill, knowledge, experience, a solution to someone's problem. Now ask yourself, who is more likely to succeed? The world doesn't simply reward effort. It rewards value. You can work hard all day doing something that few people need and earn very little. Or you can spend time mastering a skill that solves important problems and dramatically increase your income. This is one of the greatest financial truths that many people never discover. Your income often grows in proportion to the value you can provide. The story of Emmanuel and Joseph. Emmanuel and Joseph were childhood friends. After finishing school, both found jobs earning nearly the same salary. For the first few years, nothing seemed different. But while many of his friends spent every evening watching television or endlessly scrolling through social media, Emmanuel made a different choice. Every night, he dedicated just 1 hour to learning. Sometimes he studied digital marketing. Other times he learned public speaking. Later, he began studying artificial intelligence, sales, and business management. It wasn't exciting every day. Some nights he was tired. Some nights he wanted to quit. But he reminded himself that every hour invested in learning was an investment in his future. Joseph, on the other hand, believed his education had ended the day he graduated. Whenever someone suggested learning a new skill, he would say, "I'm too busy. Maybe next year. What I already know is enough." Years passed. Technology changed. Businesses changed. The job market changed. The skills Joseph depended on became less valuable. Meanwhile, Emmanuel had become someone employers competed to hire. Clients trusted him. Businesses sought his advice. His income increased, not because he worked harder than everyone else, but because he had become more valuable. The greatest investment he ever made wasn't in stocks or real estate. It was in himself. The economy rewards problem solvers. Think about the people who earn the highest incomes. Doctors solve health problems. Engineers solve technical problems. Software developers solve digital problems. Lawyers solve legal problems. Entrepreneurs solve customer problems. Every successful career is built around solving problems. The larger the problem you can solve, and the more people you can solve it for, the greater your potential reward. Instead of asking, "How can I make more money?" ask, "What problem can I become exceptionally good at solving?" That question can change the direction of your life. The danger of standing still. Imagine climbing a mountain. You decide to stop halfway because you're comfortable. But the mountain doesn't stop changing. The weather shifts. The ground beneath you becomes unstable. Standing still eventually becomes as dangerous as moving backward. Life is similar. The world keeps evolving. New technology appears. New industries emerge. Old jobs disappear. If your knowledge stays the same while the world moves forward, you slowly fall behind. Growth is no longer optional. It has become essential. The library that changed a life. There is a story about a young man who couldn't afford university. He felt discouraged because he believed education belonged only to those with money. Instead of giving up, he made one simple decision. Every evening after work, he visited a public library. He read books on business, books on communication, books on leadership, books on finance. He took notes. He practiced what he learned. He failed. He adjusted. He kept learning. Years later, he built a successful company. When reporters asked where he had earned his education, he smiled and replied, "Between the shelves of a library and through the lessons of my mistakes." That story reminds us that knowledge is available to anyone willing to pursue it. The greatest barrier is often not access. It is attitude. Skills create confidence. Many people think confidence comes first. But confidence is usually the result of competence. The more capable you become, the more confident you naturally feel. A skilled public speaker fears the stage less. A skilled investor fears the market less. A skilled entrepreneur fears competition less. Why? Because preparation replaces panic. The more you learn, the less the unknown controls you. Reflection. Take a quiet moment and ask yourself, what valuable skill have I been postponing? If I continue learning at my current pace, where will I be 5 years from now? Am I investing more time in entertainment than in education? What knowledge could I begin developing today that my future self would thank me for? Remember this. Money can be lost. Businesses can fail. Jobs can disappear. But the skills you develop remain with you. They travel wherever you go. They help you recover after setbacks. They open doors that money alone cannot. One new skill can change your career. Several valuable skills can change your entire life. Never stop learning. Because the person you become is your greatest financial asset. But even highly skilled people sometimes struggle financially for one surprising reason. They spend too much of their lives trying to impress people who are not building their future. And that invisible trap is exactly what we'll uncover in the next chapter. Chapter 6. They live to impress other people. Imagine walking into a luxury shopping mall. Everywhere you look, people are carrying designer bags. Expensive watches sparkle beneath bright lights. Luxury cars fill the parking lot. Everything around you whispers the same message. Buy this, and people will admire you. Without realizing it, many people begin measuring their worth by what they own instead of who they are. They start believing that looking rich is the same as becoming rich. But those are two very different things. Looking rich often costs money. Becoming rich requires discipline. And discipline is rarely as glamorous as luxury. The story of Aisha and Ruth. Aisha and Ruth were close friends. Both had good jobs. Both earned similar incomes. Both dreamed of achieving financial freedom. But their priorities were completely different. Every time Aisha received her salary, she looked for something new to buy. If a celebrity wore a certain brand, she wanted it. If her friends upgraded their phones, she upgraded hers too. If someone posted photos from an expensive vacation, she immediately started planning one, even if she had to borrow money. She wasn't buying things because she truly needed them. She was buying approval. Every compliment gave her a temporary feeling of success. But each purchase also moved her further away from real financial freedom. Ruth enjoyed nice things too. But before buying anything, she asked herself one question. Am I buying this because I need it, or because I want someone else to notice it? That single question saved her thousands over the years. Instead of chasing every trend, she invested in her future. While others admired Aisha's lifestyle, Ruth quietly built assets. 10 years later, the difference was impossible to ignore. Aisha had memories of expensive purchases that had long lost their value. Ruth had investments that continued to grow. One collected compliments. The other collected financial freedom. The approval trap. Human beings naturally want to be accepted. There is nothing wrong with that. The danger comes when your financial decisions are controlled by other people's opinions. Some people buy cars they cannot afford. Some rent apartments far beyond their budget. Some wear expensive clothes while struggling to pay their bills. Why? Because they fear being judged. But here's the irony. The people they are trying to impress are often trying to impress someone else. It's a never-ending cycle. You spend money you don't have to impress people who aren't paying your bills, and who may not even be thinking about you tomorrow. The silent millionaire. There is an old story about two men attending the same business conference. One arrived in a brand new luxury sports car. His suit was custom made. His watch was worth more than many people's annual salaries. Everyone assumed he was the wealthiest person in the room. The second man arrived quietly. He drove an older, well-maintained vehicle. His clothes were simple. He didn't seek attention. Throughout the event, few people noticed him. Later, they discovered that the second man owned several successful companies, employed hundreds of people, and had achieved complete financial independence. He didn't need to advertise his wealth. His bank account spoke more loudly than his appearance ever could. That story reminds us of a powerful truth. Real wealth doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it moves in silence. Status versus substance. There is a difference between status and substance. Status says, "Look at what I own." Substance says, "Look at the value I create." Status fades. Technology becomes outdated. Fashion changes. Luxury cars lose value. But substance continues to grow. Your knowledge. Your character. Your skills. Your investments. Your reputation. These are the things that build lasting wealth. The wealthiest people often focus less on appearing successful and more on becoming useful. Because usefulness creates value. And value creates opportunity. The tree that bore fruit. Imagine two trees. The first tree spends all its energy producing beautiful leaves. People admire how attractive it looks. The second tree focuses on growing strong roots and producing healthy fruit. From a distance, it may seem less impressive. But when harvest season arrives, everyone wants the fruit, not the leaves. Many people spend their lives polishing the leaves. Very few spend time strengthening the roots. The roots are your habits, your discipline, your patience, your financial wisdom. Without strong roots, appearances cannot support lasting success. Reflection. Ask yourself honestly, have I ever bought something mainly to impress other people? How many of my financial decisions are influenced by social media? Would I still buy this item if no one else ever saw it? Am I building a lifestyle that looks wealthy? Or a future that truly is wealthy? Remember this. Your value as a person is not measured by the logo on your clothes. It is not measured by the car you drive. It is not measured by the number of people who admire your lifestyle online. Your true value is measured by your character. The problems you solve. The lives you improve. And the legacy you build. Stop chasing applause. Start building assets. Because applause lasts for a moment. But financial freedom can last for generations. Yet even those who avoid the approval trap often lose something even more valuable than money. They lose time. And once time is gone, no amount of wealth can buy it back. That brings us to our next lesson. Why so many people stay poor? Because they waste time instead of building their future. Chapter 7. They waste time instead of building their future. There is one thing that every human being receives in exactly the same amount. Not money. Not talent. Not opportunities. Time. Every morning, the richest billionaire and the poorest worker wake up with the same 24 hours. No one can buy an extra hour. No one can borrow tomorrow's time. No one can recover yesterday's. Time is the one currency that, once spent, is gone forever. The question is not whether you have enough time. The question is, what are you exchanging your time for? Because whether you realize it or not, every hour of your life is an investment. You are always planting something. The only difference is what will grow from it. The story of Victor and Daniel. Victor and Daniel were neighbors. Both worked full-time. Both dreamed of becoming financially free. Both often complained that life wasn't giving them enough opportunities. After work, Victor had a routine. He would lie on the couch, scroll through social media for hours, watch random videos, argue with strangers online, and promise himself that tomorrow he would begin working on his goals. Tomorrow became next week. Next week became next month. And before he noticed, another year had passed. Daniel also came home tired. He understood what it felt like to want rest. But instead of giving every free hour to entertainment, he made a simple commitment. Just 1 hour every evening. 1 hour to read. 1 hour to improve a skill. 1 hour to work on a small business idea. 1 hour to learn about investing. Some nights he felt exhausted. Some nights he made very little progress. But he refused to let an entire day end without moving at least one step closer to his future. 5 years later, people admired Daniel's success. They called him fortunate. They said he was gifted. What they never saw were the hundreds of quiet evenings when he chose growth over comfort. Success wasn't built in one dramatic moment. It was built 1 hour at a time. The greatest thief is invisible. Many people imagine that failure comes from one huge mistake. But more often, failure is created by countless small moments that seem harmless. Just 5 more minutes. Just one more episode. I'll start on Monday. There will always be time later. Individually, these decisions appear insignificant. But together, they steal years. Imagine a bucket with a tiny hole at the bottom. One drop of water escaping doesn't seem important. But if the hole is never repaired, eventually the bucket becomes empty. Time disappears the same way. Not in giant pieces. In tiny moments we barely notice. Busy is not the same as productive. One of the biggest misconceptions about success is believing that being busy means you're making progress. You can spend an entire day answering messages, attending meetings, running errands, watching educational videos without applying anything, and still move nowhere. Productivity is not measured by how exhausted you feel. It is measured by how much meaningful progress you make. Ask yourself, at the end of today, what have I built? What have I learned? What have I improved? Because activity without purpose is simply motion. Growth requires intention. The farmer's seasons. Imagine a farmer. Every planting season, instead of sowing seeds, he spends his days sitting beneath a tree talking about how wonderful the harvest will be. He has big dreams. He has exciting plans. He even buys expensive tools. But he never plants. Months later, harvest season arrives. His field is empty. Not because the soil failed him. Not because the rain refused to fall. But because he confused wishing with working. Life operates by the same principle. Today's habits become tomorrow's harvest. The future isn't created by what we hope for. It is created by what we consistently do. Time is an investment. Think of every hour as a coin. You have 24 coins every day. You can spend them on entertainment. You can spend them on distractions. Or you can invest some of them into learning, creating, improving, and building. The remarkable thing about time is that small investments grow. 1 hour of reading each day becomes hundreds of hours in a year. 1 hour of practicing a skill becomes expertise. 1 hour of building a business becomes something that may eventually create income even while you sleep. Small, consistent actions always outperform occasional bursts of motivation. Reflection. Pause for a moment. Be completely honest with yourself. If someone secretly recorded how I spend my free time every day, would they predict that I am becoming wealthier? Or simply becoming more distracted? What habit consumes the most hours of my week without adding real value to my life? What could happen if I invested just 1 extra hour every day into becoming a better version of myself? Imagine where you could be 1 year from today. Not because of luck. Not because someone handed you an opportunity. But because you chose to use your time differently. Never underestimate the power of 1 disciplined hour. It may not change your life tomorrow, but it can completely transform your life over the next decade. Remember this. Money lost can be earned again. Opportunities lost may return. But time never comes back. Spend it wisely. Invest it intentionally. And let your future become the evidence of today's discipline. But even people who use their time well can remain trapped if they continue pointing fingers at everyone else. Because the next habit that keeps millions poor is one of the most destructive of all. They blame everyone except themselves. Chapter 8. They blame everyone except themselves. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. You notice that your clothes are dirty. Instead of washing them, you become angry at the mirror. You point your finger. You complain. You even cover the mirror with a cloth. But no matter what you do, nothing changes. Why? Because the mirror was never the problem. Life works in much the same way. Many people spend years blaming their circumstances, their family, their government, their employer, the economy, or bad luck. Some of those challenges are real. Some people truly begin life with fewer opportunities than others. Some face hardships that no one should have to endure. Acknowledging those realities matters. But there is another truth that is just as important. You cannot control everything that happens to you. You can control how you respond. The moment you begin taking responsibility for your choices, you begin taking back your power. The story of Isaac and Noah. Isaac and Noah grew up in the same neighborhood. It wasn't wealthy. Jobs were limited. Life was difficult. Every day, Isaac complained. The economy is terrible. Successful people are just lucky. If I had rich parents, my life would be different. Whenever an opportunity appeared, he found a reason why it wouldn't work. Whenever someone succeeded, he explained why they had an unfair advantage. His words gave him temporary comfort. But they never changed his future. Noah faced the same challenges. He knew the obstacles were real. He didn't pretend life was easy. But instead of asking, "Whose fault is this?" he asked, "What can I do with what I have today?" He started small. He borrowed books instead of buying them. He learned free skills online. He accepted humble beginnings. He made mistakes. He adjusted. He kept moving. 10 years later, both men looked back. Their circumstances had started the same. Their responses had not. Isaac became an expert at explaining why success was impossible. Noah became living proof that progress begins when responsibility replaces excuses. The weight of excuses. Excuses can feel comforting. They protect our pride. They help us avoid uncomfortable truths. But they also keep us standing still. Think of excuses as carrying a backpack filled with heavy stones. Every excuse adds another stone. It wasn't my fault. I'll start later. I don't have enough time. I'm waiting for the perfect opportunity. Eventually, the backpack becomes so heavy that moving forward feels impossible. The only way to walk freely is to put the stones down. Not because life is fair, but because carrying them won't help you reach your destination. The circle of control. Imagine drawing two circles. The larger outer circle contains everything you cannot control. The weather. The economy. Other people's opinions. Unexpected setbacks. Past mistakes. The smaller inner circle contains what you can control. Your attitude. Your habits. Your discipline. Your willingness to learn. Your response to failure. Successful people spend most of their energy inside the inner circle. Unsuccessful people often spend most of their energy complaining about the outer one. Every minute spent blaming is a minute not spent building. Every complaint is time that could have been used to improve. The captain of the ship. Picture a ship caught in a violent storm. The captain cannot stop the wind. He cannot command the waves. He cannot control the rain. But he can adjust the sails. He can change the direction of the ship. He can make decisions that increase the chance of reaching safety. Life is much the same. You may not control every storm, but you can control your response. That response often determines your future more than the storm itself. Reflection. Take a quiet moment. Be completely honest with yourself. When something goes wrong in my life, what is my first reaction? Do I immediately look for someone to blame? Or do I ask, what can I learn from this? Am I spending more energy complaining about problems? Or creating solutions? Remember this. Responsibility is not about carrying guilt. It is about claiming power. The day you stop waiting for someone else to rescue your future is the day you begin building it yourself. You may not control where your journey begins, but you have far more influence over where it ends than you might think. Every choice you make today is a vote for the person you will become tomorrow. Choose wisely. Take ownership. Keep moving forward. Because the road to wealth belongs to those who accept responsibility for their growth. Yet even responsible people sometimes abandon their dreams for one heartbreaking reason. They give up too soon. They quit just before their efforts begin to bear fruit. And that is exactly what we'll explore in the next chapter. They quit before success has time to grow. Chapter 9. They quit before success has time to grow. Imagine planting a mango seed. The very next morning, you rush outside to see if it has become a tree. Nothing. The next day you check again. Still nothing. A week later there is no fruit. No branches. No shade. Frustrated, you dig up the seed and throw it away. Then you declare, "It doesn't work." How many people treat their dreams exactly like that? They expect results after a few days. They expect success after a few attempts. They expect wealth after a few months of effort. When it doesn't happen quickly, they assume they have failed. But success has always required one thing that modern society struggles to practice: patience. The story of Benjamin and Andrew. Benjamin and Andrew both dreamed of becoming entrepreneurs. They started small businesses only a few weeks apart. The first few months were difficult. Customers were few. Sales were inconsistent. There were days when both wondered if they had made the wrong decision. After 6 months, Benjamin became discouraged. "This isn't working," he said. He closed his business. He returned to the life he had before, convinced that entrepreneurship simply wasn't for him. Andrew faced the same slow progress. He also made mistakes. Some products failed. Some customers complained. Some weeks, he barely made enough to cover his expenses. But instead of asking, "Why am I failing?" he asked, "What can I improve?" He listened to feedback. He improved his products. He learned new marketing skills. He became more patient. 1 year later, his business began to grow. 2 years later, it became profitable. 5 years later, people called him an overnight success. They never saw the nights he stayed awake solving problems. They never saw the disappointments he quietly endured. They only saw the harvest. They never saw the years of planting. The bamboo tree lesson. There is a remarkable lesson from the bamboo tree. For years after it is planted, very little appears above the ground. To someone who doesn't understand its nature, it seems as though nothing is happening. But beneath the soil, the bamboo is building an extraordinary root system. Only after those roots are strong enough does it begin to grow rapidly. Life often works the same way. Sometimes your effort is producing invisible progress. You are developing discipline. You are gaining experience. You are building character. You are learning lessons that cannot be taught in a classroom. These things are your roots. Without them, lasting success cannot stand. Failure is a teacher. Many people fear failure. But failure is often one of life's greatest teachers. Thomas Edison reportedly tested thousands of different materials before creating a practical electric light bulb. When asked about his many unsuccessful attempts, he is often quoted as saying that he had not failed but had found many ways that did not work. Whether in business, investing, or personal growth, every mistake contains valuable information. The question is not whether you will fail. The question is whether you will learn. Every setback can either become a stepping stone or a stopping point. The choice is yours. The miner who stopped too soon. Imagine a miner searching for gold. For months he digs through hard rock. Every day is exhausting. Every day he hopes the next strike of his pickaxe will reveal treasure. Eventually he becomes discouraged. Certain that there is no gold, he gives up and sells the land. The new owner continues digging. Just a few feet beyond where the first miner stopped, gold is discovered. How close was the first miner? He may never know. Life is full of people who stop just before their breakthrough. Not because they lack talent. Not because they lacked opportunity. But because they lost patience. Never let temporary discomfort convince you to abandon a worthwhile dream. Reflection. Pause for a moment and think honestly. Is there a goal I gave up on too quickly? Have I mistaken slow progress for failure? When I face obstacles, do I quit? Or do I learn? What if my breakthrough is closer than I imagine? Remember this. Great achievements are rarely built in days. They are built through thousands of ordinary moments of consistency. The days when no one is watching. The mornings when motivation is gone. The evenings when quitting seems easier than continuing. Those are the moments that shape your future. Success is not reserved for the most talented. It often belongs to those who simply refuse to stop. Keep planting. Keep learning. Keep improving. Keep believing that today's invisible effort can become tomorrow's visible success. Because every meaningful dream deserves enough time to grow. But even persistence has to be guided by direction. You can work hard for years. You can refuse to quit. Yet still never arrive where you truly want to be. Why? Because persistence without vision is like sailing without a destination. And that leads us to our final lesson. They never create a long-term vision for wealth. Chapter 10. They never create a long-term vision for wealth. Imagine boarding a ship. The captain welcomes everyone aboard. The engines start. The ship begins to move. Hours pass. Days pass. Then one passenger asks, "Captain, where are we going?" The captain smiles awkwardly and replies, "I don't know. We'll just keep sailing and hope we arrive somewhere good." Would you trust your life to that captain? Of course not. Yet this is exactly how many people live. They wake up, go to work, pay bills, sleep, repeat. Week after week, year after year. They are busy. They are hardworking. But they have never decided where they truly want to go. Without a vision, life becomes a cycle instead of a journey. And a person without direction can spend decades moving without ever making meaningful progress. The story of Mary and Esther. Mary and Esther became friends during their first year at work. Both were ambitious. Both wanted a better future. But they approached life differently. Mary lived 1 month at a time. Her only goal was to make it to the next payday. If she received extra money, she spent it. If she received a bonus, she celebrated it. She rarely thought beyond the present. Whenever someone asked where she wanted to be in 10 years, she would laugh and say, "I'll figure it out when I get there." Esther thought differently. One quiet evening, she took out a notebook and began writing. She imagined the life she wanted 10 years from now. She wrote down the kind of person she wanted to become, the skills she wanted to master, the amount she hoped to save and invest, the business she dreamed of starting, the family she hoped to support, the impact she wanted to make in her community. She didn't know exactly how everything would happen, but she knew where she wanted to go. That vision became her compass. Whenever distractions appeared, she asked herself, "Will this move me closer to my vision, or further away from it?" That single question shaped hundreds of decisions. 10 years later, Mary was still reacting to life. Esther was living the life she had once written down. Not because everything went according to plan, but because every setback still pointed her toward the same destination. Vision gives meaning to sacrifice. Without a vision, discipline feels like punishment. Saving money feels painful. Learning new skills feels exhausting. Working on weekends feels unfair. But when you have a clear vision, those same actions become meaningful. A marathon runner doesn't enjoy every mile, but the finish line gives purpose to every step. Likewise, your financial vision gives purpose to today's sacrifices. Every investment, every book you read, every skill you develop, every temptation you resist, becomes another step toward the future you have chosen. Build wealth beyond yourself. Many people dream of becoming rich, but wealth without purpose often leads to emptiness. Ask yourself, why do I want financial freedom? Is it only to own expensive things? Or is it to create opportunities for my family? To help others? To build something that outlives me? To leave a legacy that future generations will remember? Money is a powerful tool. In the hands of a wise person, it can educate children, build businesses, create jobs, support communities, fund innovation, change lives. The greatest vision is not simply to have more. It is to become someone whose success benefits others. The cathedral builders. There is an old story about three men cutting stones. A traveler asked the first man, "What are you doing?" He replied, "I'm cutting stones." The traveler asked the second man, "I'm earning a living." Finally, he asked the third. The man smiled and said, "I'm building a cathedral that will inspire people long after I'm gone." All three men were doing the same work. But only one had a vision greater than today's task. That vision transformed ordinary work into extraordinary purpose. The same is true for your life. When you know why you're building wealth, the daily effort becomes far more meaningful. Reflection. Take a deep breath. Now ask yourself these questions. What do I truly want to be 5 years from now? 10 years from now? 20 years from now? If I continue living exactly as I am today, will I arrive at that future? What habits must I change? What new habits must I begin? What kind of person must I become to create the life I desire? Remember this. Your future is not created in a single dramatic moment. It is created by the small decisions you make every day. Every decision is like placing one brick. One brick seems insignificant, but thousands of carefully placed bricks become a house. Your habits are those bricks. Your mindset is the foundation. Your vision is the blueprint. And your future is the house you are building. Choose your blueprint wisely. Build patiently. Build consistently. Build with purpose. Because wealth is never only about the money you accumulate. It is about the life you create, the people you serve, the legacy you leave, and the person you become along the way. As we come to the end of this journey, take one final look back. The 10 habits we've explored are not chains that are impossible to break. They are choices. And every choice can be changed. Today, you have the opportunity to begin writing a different financial story. One decision. One habit. One day at a time. Now let's move into our final reflection, where we'll bring together every lesson from this journey and discover how to turn knowledge into lasting transformation. Final reflection, the choice that changes everything. We've reached the end of this journey. But perhaps, this is actually the beginning of yours. Over the past hour, we've explored 10 reasons why so many people remain trapped in financial struggle. Not because they are unintelligent. Not because they lack potential. Not because success belongs only to a fortunate few. But because certain habits quietly shape their future day after day. Let's take one final look at those habits. They never change the way they think. They spend more than they invest. They fear taking calculated risks. They depend on only one source of income. They stop developing valuable skills. They live to impress other people. They waste time instead of building their future. They blame everyone except themselves. They quit before success has time to grow. And they never create a long-term vision for wealth. Now here's the important question. Which one challenged you the most? Not your friend. Not your neighbor. Not someone you know. You. Because transformation begins with honesty. It's easy to watch a video like this and think about someone else. You might remember a relative who always blames the economy. A friend who spends every paycheck. A coworker who refuses to learn new skills. But this video was never meant to change them. It was meant to change you. The most powerful question you can ask today is not, why are other people poor? It is, what habit do I need to change first? Because you don't have to change everything overnight. In fact, trying to change everything at once often leads to changing nothing. Real transformation happens one decision at a time. One habit at a time. One day at a time. Imagine your future. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine yourself 5 years from today. There are 2 versions of you. The first version keeps making the same choices. The same excuses. The same spending habits. The same fears. The same procrastination. Nothing changes. Life simply repeats itself. Now imagine the second version. This version reads instead of scrolling. Invests before spending. Learns instead of complaining. Builds instead of showing off. takes responsibility instead of making excuses, keeps going when life becomes difficult, lives with a clear vision. Which future feels more peaceful? Which future feels more meaningful? The distance between those two lives is not luck. It is daily decisions. Wealth is more than money. As we finish this journey, remember something that many people forget. Wealth is not measured only by the size of your bank account. True wealth is waking up without constant fear. It is having choices. It is having peace of mind. It is being able to care for the people you love. It is becoming generous without creating hardship for yourself. It is leaving your children knowledge, character, and opportunity, not just possessions. Money is important. But money is a tool. Character is the hand that holds it. Wisdom is the mind that directs it. Purpose is the reason it matters. Never chase wealth while losing your integrity. Never pursue success while neglecting your family. Never gain money at the cost of your character. The richest life is one where your values grow alongside your income. A promise to yourself. Before this video ends, make one promise. Not to me. To yourself. Promise that you will no longer let fear make your decisions. Promise that you will continue learning. Promise that you will protect your time. Promise that you will build rather than merely consume. Promise that you will think beyond today. Promise that your future deserves better than your excuses. And when life becomes difficult, as it sometimes will, remember this moment. Remember that every successful person has faced obstacles. Every builder has faced delays. Every investor has endured uncertainty. Every dream has encountered resistance. The difference is that they kept moving. So can you. One final story. There is an old saying. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Perhaps you wish you had started saving earlier. Perhaps you wish you had invested sooner. Perhaps you regret opportunities you ignored. Perhaps you feel you've wasted too much time. Don't let yesterday become another excuse. You cannot rewrite the past. But you can write the next chapter. And one day, years from now, your future self may look back on this very moment and quietly say, "That was the day everything began to change." Not because life suddenly became easy, but because you finally decided to become different. And when you become different, your decisions become different. Your habits become different. Your future becomes different. The road ahead will require patience. It will require discipline. It will require courage. But every meaningful journey begins with a single step. Take that step today. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Today. Because the life you dream about is not built by wishing. It is built by what you choose to do after this video ends. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this message challenged you, inspired you, or helped you see money from a new perspective, don't let it stop here. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Return to these lessons whenever you feel discouraged. And remember, your financial future is not decided by where you started. It is shaped by the choices you make from this moment forward. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, keep building, and never stop believing that a better future is possible, because it begins with the decisions you make today.